Good morning. I wanted to talk about in today's video what to do when life gets in the way. But first, I want to say thank you to all of the folks out there watching the videos. You guys are killing it in the comments. It's really good stuff. But what do we do when you're learning how to trade, or you're already trading, and life presents times when you really got to focus more on that than placing trades? And I know that kind of contradicts what I've been saying in other videos about showing up every day, but sometimes common sense just has to factor into what's going on. So just coming out of a small turnaround at work, the plant that I work in, we came down to do some major repairs on some heat exchangers, and there was with shutdown and the work and then starting back up, you're looking at about 2.5 weeks of some pretty long hours. My phone ringing all day long, solving problems, providing information, coordinating activities. We brought the plant down safely. That was the most important thing. No significant events, no injuries. Very proud of that. Very proud of the team and all the hard work they did. But I knew going into it that, it was going to be very difficult to come home, switch gears, and focus on my trading. And I learned a very important lesson a few years ago in a previous outage. I'll talk about here in a minute, but I knew that I wanted to make sure that I didn't go silent here on the channel, so I bankrolled a couple of videos so that they could keep coming out on Mondays and Thursday mornings, is when my videos post. But I really knew that I just needed to take a break for those couple of weeks, and that's okay. It's easy to pick back up, once things calm down. This past weekend, it's Monday morning, by the way. This past weekend, was the final touches on getting the plants back online. So, a lot of emails, late into the night, Zoom meetings, Teams calls with folks there on the night shift. A lot of distractions. And I just wanted to let you guys know it's okay to take a break from time to time and focus on life, whatever that may be. It could be work, it could be a relationship that you're in, it could be school, wherever you're at in life, will determine, I guess, the differences in issues that may come up. A couple of years back, it was 2019. I was still kind of dabbling in. Let me erase that because we don't dabble, right? I was investigating options, and I put a few $1,000s in the TD Ameritrade account, and specifically for options because NinjaTrader is a futures platform, so I had to get account set up with Thinkorswim, which is now Schwab, and I was what the hell was the name of that? It was a computer company, NVIDIA. NVIDIA was NVIDIA was doing well, but it was trading a lot less than it is today. So options contracts, were cheaper. And, my strategy, around options contracts was, to buy, in the money calls that were a few weeks out from expiration, taking advantage of the upward trend that NVIDIA was on at the time. I think it still is, by the way. And I was doing okay. I was winning. I think I won my first couple of trades. Got the account up from $3,000 to just over $8,000. And the concept of trading options was much different than what I was used to, because there's that daily decay, and didn't quite like that. But NVIDIA was making some good gains, so it really didn't matter. But we had an outage coming up. It was like July of 2019, and I went into that outage with some open options contracts. I think I had five at the time, and they had increased in value pretty substantially, actually, at least for what I had on the line. But as I went into that outage, anyone who's participated in a major turnaround, at a manufacturing plant or chemical plant, refinery, power plant, that when the bullets start flying and the work is going on. I mean, you got cranes out there, you got hundreds of people that come to the plant that may or may not have been there before. A lot of moving parts. They're bouncing shit off of structures and swinging loads all over the damn place, and it can get a little hairy at times. And I should have listened to my inner voice and closed out the positions, but I didn't. I was very distracted at the time, and frankly, I think somewhat overconfident in what I was doing with those options trades. And that damn expiration date was looming. It was about, it was less than 2 weeks out. And anyone that's messed around with options before knows that the closer you get to the expiration date, the more decay you see every day. And it almost seems like it's exponential. But I hung on to it. And, it started going down a little bit. And I was like, well, shit. But I was too busy. Didn't have time to fart around with it. That's one of the things that, kind of turned me off about options. Was I found myself really drawn to needing to check on it much more frequently than with my futures trades. And I wasn't able to do it. There was too much going on. And, the options ended up expiring worthless. And that sucked, because it didn't need to. But I learned a very valuable lesson from that. And then one I would not make again. I promised myself I would not make again in the future. And that was, if I'm not able to focus on what I'm doing, then I'm just going to step back, take a short break, take care of whatever's going on. For me, it's these pesky outages. When you get to be my age, I'm in my well, hell, I'll just tell you, I'm 57. I'll be 58 in February. Kind of the third quarter of life, if you will. And we don't typically run into a large variety of issues. At least we don't. My wife and I don't. I think that when you get to be this age, hopefully you've learned to make good decisions and avoid things that cause a lot of drama in life. That's one thing I can't stand. Drama. I'll avoid it like the plague. Don't get caught up in office politics. Don't seek out the rumor mill, the latest juicy gossip. I ain't got time for that. That's just a waste of time. But I remember as a younger person, I did a little bit, and I learned that there were better things that I could spend my time doing. So if you're a new trader, you're gonna be on the hunt for a way to incorporate trading into your daily life. At least I hope you are. I know it's very easy to get sucked into the hype of the all these fancy indicators and trading platforms and promises to turn $100 into $1 million if you'll just buy my program. It's just marketing, and it's geared towards people that are looking for a way to break into trading. If that's you, then what the hell? I tell you what, in central Iowa, Midwest, where I'm at, you see some weird shit parked on the side of the road. This is the farming belt, and we're getting ready to get into harvest season next month. And I don't know what the hell that was parked on the side of the road, but anyway, not to digress. If you're investigating trading, I would implore you to approach it like you would a college education, I guess, or if you come from skilled trades like I do, an apprenticeship. Approach it like apprenticeship program. You really need to learn the nuts and bolts, and most apprenticeships are 5 years long, and they're designed to be 5 years for a reason. It takes time to learn all the skills that you need to become competent in what you're doing. Not exceptional. Although there are folks that graduate. Tell you what, I've met some young men and women that were truly exceptional by the time they graduated their apprenticeship. But generally they're designed to make you competent, to make you a journeyman in your field. And if you approach trading that way, if you approach it without the mindset that you're going to get rich quick overnight, you're going to be set up more for success than failure, because while it's never happened to me, I've come pretty close. But the stories I hear of, people blowing up their accounts, losing their stake, if you will, man, they're just numerous. And I gotta believe, it's due to just being in a hurry. Thinking you got to jump in with both feet and trade every day, or you're missing an opportunity if you're not in a trade. That was one of the interesting mental shifts that I noticed. The peace that I felt when I wasn't in a trade. It was kind of weird, because if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I'm not a day trader. I guess what you would call a short-term swing trader, short-term scalper. A couple of days in the market at the most. I mean, I've had futures trades that I've had open for 7 or 8 days. For me, that's riding the ragged edge, because during that time frame, I generally have seen a small retracement that kind of tests your intestinal fortitude. Did you make the right decision? You got to grunt those ones out. Those ones are tough. Thankfully, they don't come along very often. But I was reading the comments on a couple of the videos you guys have been leaving me, and man, I just gotta say that's really, really good stuff. But they run the gamut from people that have been grinding it out for a few years, figuring things out, and have come out on the other side, making money. And I really love hearing that, because I know how hard it is. But then there's a lot of people that aren't so lucky. And I know how that feels too, because when I was first couple of years I was learning, and I thought why is it so damn hard? Why does it feel like every time I would enter a trade that to me looked very promising, it would just go the other direction? And I was convinced at the time that the big traders, or the behind the scenes folks that were the market movers, I guess you would call them, were just out for my stop losses. And what I found out was there's a couple of things I was doing wrong, and it's all about the evolution of finding a strategy that works for you. I had instances where my stop losses were too tight. I was in instances where I didn't really understand where my profit target should be, and it got close, but then would retrace, or it would just turn and go the other direction. I should have taken that profit target, or I was just dead wrong. And that's all part of the learning process, and it can be very frustrating, and it can cause a lot of people to just give up. There's been a lot of folks that reached out to me asking for help, and I've really been trying to figure out how I could do that, because it's a hell of a time commitment, not only from the person who's trying to learn, but the person who's trying to teach them. And I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet, but an idea I had was putting together a course. I guess you'd call it a mini course, and give it to you guys. You know, let you kind of get a behind the curtain look at my journey, and you know what I think's important versus what you may be hearing about. Kind of explain things, in a way that's easily understood. Much like just sitting down and having a conversation. So I started working on that a couple of weeks ago, making some good progress. I think it's probably going to take several more weeks. A lot of stinking typing. Taking all the information, breaking it into modules so it kind of build off of each other. But I want to give it to you guys because, that's a lot of the enjoyment I get out of these videos, is hoping that it's helping somebody. Hoping that the message that I'm putting out there, helps someone. And I take a lot of enjoyment out of that. So putting that together, I'll drop a post on the page, when I'm getting closer, to kind of let you guys know. Got to figure out how to get it to you guys. Probably just put a link on the channel. Cross that bridge when we get to it. Anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed day. I'm getting close to the plant. Gonna pound out another shift. It's Monday. Looking forward to the week ahead. And you guys all have a blessed day. I'll see you on the next clip.